Welcome, everyone. It's Coach Stefan Rudolph coming straight to you from Recovered Coaching, doing the 2020 Vision Quest live podcast interviews. And I wanted to bring to you today a wonderful human being and terrific athlete, Brian O'Leary, who has overcome many obstacles in life, including my fellow journey with the epilepsy, overcoming the obstacles in life that go with that, with having seizures, being an athlete, and everything else that is the hard road. So, Brian, welcome to our program here.
Thanks, Steph, for having me. How's it going today?
Doing great, doing great. I appreciate you coming on board here and telling everybody your story here and what you've been through. I really just want to dive in and hear a little bit here in detail, actually, about what you've been through. Maybe start off because you mentioned you were born with epilepsy. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and what did you go through and grow through at a young age once you had that?
Well, when you're very young, it's really difficult to explain to anyone what the problem is. When you're 5 or 6 years old, you have a seizure. You're not really sure what's going on. You just kind of wake up on the floor and you don't really know what to tell anybody. So for the most part, you don't. And this went on, I'm really not sure with frequency, but it went on for several years. And finally, I was having dinner with my parents one night, had a seizure at the dinner table, woke up at St. Vincent's Hospital, and was diagnosed from there.
Yeah. And that part was, you were how old again?
About 13 or 14 years old.
Okay. And had you been on medication before that?
Prior to the hospital?
Yeah.
No, prior to then, no, I wasn't on any type of epilepsy medications or any type of treatment. The seizures were pretty infrequent, and I'm sure some of them happened in my sleep. And it's just one of those things that was really, I didn't understand enough to even be able to talk about it, to try to explain to somebody what happened. It's like I got dizzy and I woke up and I really couldn't explain anything else. So it was until someone was able to actually see it, then it was a lot easier from then.
And did they immediately get you on medication right there?
I was put in touch with a neurologist after I left the emergency room, and we started medicating probably about a week later.
Okay. And what took place after that? Did that affect your life right away as you were in junior high into high school as well?
Oh, it definitely did it. I was racing go-karts growing up. That definitely put an immediate stop to that. As I got older and through high school, hitting puberty, it just, the seizures got worse and worse and worse. We tried several different medications, and there are all sorts of, anyone who's been on these medications knows there are just tons of side effects with each one.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of research, a lot of wonderful medications have been developed since then, but at the time it was trial and error. And I mean, it was definitely rough going. I would probably be maybe 6-8 weeks between seizures.
Mm-hmm.
Going into college, it got worse because they switched my medications prior to me heading off to school. And so then I had to learn about the side effects kind of as I went.
Right. Some of those, and I can probably go down a list too, because as our viewers know, I've had epilepsy in the past. Tegretol, Topamax, Depakote, right? Anything and everything that was Keppra was one of them probably, and some of the other ones. What was the one that worked for you best at this point?
Depakote worked very, very well for me. However, there are a lot of side effects that go along with it. You have to get your blood taken every couple of months just to check to make sure that the levels aren't too high in your liver. Recently, they have switched me over to Trileptal, which works rather similarly, but with less side effects. I've been having great success with that.
Yeah. And the interesting part about your story and to the viewers why I had connected with Brian so well is about being an athlete, right? Your passion, your drive. You said even racing, was it go-karts back then or something that as a kid, you were competitive. Tell us a little bit more about your story about being an athlete combined with the epilepsy.
Well, once I found out I had epilepsy, racing is something that I've always done. I've always tried to find a way to make it work. I ran cross country. I ran track. I rode. I did everything I could. I was never really good with sports that required scoring points, scoring goals, anything like that. I was never really talented with that, but I was always really good with getting to a finish line faster than somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, I rode when I was in college. When I came in for my freshman year, I was a couple pounds overweight from not working out very much over the summer. So they put me on a bicycle to go back and forth to practice with, and found that, I really, really enjoyed that. So even after leaving school, I kept continuing to ride. I started racing a little bit, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. So,
Now,
so some of it was just, you're riding your bike at this point, but you hadn't had any seizures on your bike or anything like that at that point, though, in your life?
No, at that point, I had been very lucky. All of the seizures that I had, I was at home for.
Okay.
Or in a dorm room or somewhere safe, a little bit more secure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that all did change in 2013. I was ramping up to go to Ironman down in Puerto Rico. About 6 months before the race, I had I guess the names changed so much, but they called it a grand mal seizure.
Yeah.
When I was out on a time trial, I got in a really bad accident, went into a curb face first about 16, 17 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up shattering everything through here. My face has been completely reconstructed. Still have the trach scar in. I mean, it collapsed my face. It broke my back, shoulder, collarbone. Spent 4 days in a medically induced coma. It was very, very long. It was the start of a very long road recovery. After about 4 days, they kind of woke me up, and there were a lot of people in the hospital room with me. And kind of looking around, I was really confused. I just saw a lot of tubes coming out of me and a lot of people who were really concerned. And I just knew I had done something big this time.
The last thing you remember is just riding your bike, going so many miles an hour, and then you wake up in a hospital, right?
Right. I do remember leaving the house. This was probably less than 10 minutes into my ride. I remember riding. I don't remember any type of aura, any type of warning. But I do have little tiny flashes, little 2-3 second memories of being loaded into the ambulance and that little bump that you feel when they put the stretcher in, them closing the doors. And it just kind of trailed off from there and woke up with my family around me.
Yeah, and that's a big thing to our viewers out there who know, and most of you will connect with this in one way or another, whether you are an epileptic or have been with somebody who has epilepsy or seizures. That really hit home what you're saying right there, the part where they're closing the ambulance door. I had that happen many a times, and it feels like something's just like, here we go again, right? And this is another part of my journey, or it's depressing. It's hard, right? And it's anxiety, it's stress, it's frustration because you can't do what you want to do, right? The things that happened to you in biking happened to me in racquetball, and what you're going through right now and growing through, I think, is an amazing story. So go on about what you made for your or what happened from this point on to make to your comeback right now.
Well, whenever you get in an accident that's this bad, when it's to the point where you're not concerned that you're going to die, you've made peace with it. You've hit absolute rock bottom in that hospital.
Yeah.
You start making your decisions a little bit different. Most people will find when it comes down to a hard decision, most people will find a gray area in the middle and say, I'm not going to absolutely do this, and I'm not absolutely going to do that. I couldn't think that way anymore. It became I was either going to get out of the hospital or I was not going to get out of the hospital. I could only really look at things in terms of absolutes. So whenever I had a little bit of time to there's really not a lot you can do in the hospital other than just kind of sit there and think. My jaw had been wired shut, so I couldn't really communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
But at a point, the bike riding came up, and I started to think about it for a while, and I knew one of two things was going to happen. I was either never going to get back on the bike again, or I was going to absolutely push this thing and see how far I could go.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I went with the latter, but I started off about 6 or 8 months after the accident. I was able to start doing small local races and putting in the training time, and it just kind of went from there.
Well, that's a big part of your shift too, because the mental part of really just taking the first step forward, right? You're taking the first step in a journey. That was your hardest part, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everything at the beginning is always going to be the hardest thing.
Right.
I feel like as you progress through something, the decisions get smaller. But in the very beginning, your large decision is whether you're going to start or not. As you get further along, it's almost like taking someone out to a basketball court who's never shot a basketball.
Hmm.
You go there to coach them. In the beginning, you're fixing these huge issues of, you need to square your feet up. You need to do this. You need to do that. But as you get through it, as you get better, those decisions becomes very, very small things that you can change.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you have to take those first big steps and get out of your comfort zone. And I was scared to death to get back on the bike for a little while, because every time I got back on the bike, I started having flashbacks of my accident. And it was just, it really took a lot.
Yeah, it took a lot of courage. And I remember when we spoke before, you said, there was a great quote. You said, dealing with the same versus implementing change. So if you're going to continue to deal with the same and not get anywhere versus implementing change, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anything that you do, people don't make huge change in their life because everything's going great. If everything in your life is going fantastic, everything's going wonderful, you don't need to change anything.
Right.
But if you're at the point where the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, everything is starting to control your life, you've got to take some steps. You don't have to do everything at once, but you take that one first big step to say, I'm not going to let this control my life. And then, the help will come, the support will come.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of great people who they will help you out in any way that they can. But you have to take that first step for yourself.
Yeah, a big part of it is pushing ourselves forward. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about this is, if you're on the fence about it, you're going to keep making the same decisions. Most people aren't happy with, everyone wants to improve. Everyone wants to do all these wonderful things, but they're not willing to get out of that comfort zone and make those changes to get where they really want to go. And when I started doing this, I said, it doesn't matter how much it takes. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to keep pushing until there's really no end in sight with this.
Yeah.
I started off racing, 15-mile fixed gear races around the city of Jacksonville. And the goal for next summer is to do 3,000 miles across the country at the Race Across America.
Nice. Yeah, we were saying from California to New York, right? Is that what it is?
We're heading California to Annapolis, Maryland. Going to Ocean City, Annapolis, I believe it's 3,089 miles in 11 days.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's awesome. And then you also had something about was it a 444 run or something like that, or
Yes, as a ramp up for the Race Across America, I'll be heading to the Natchez Trace 444 in October. And it's a 444 mile race from Nashville, Tennessee down to Natchez, Mississippi. It runs the entire length of the Natchez Trace Parkway.
And what would you say to fellow epileptics out there having seizures or trying to control them as much as possible as you've done? I know you had noted about regimented diet or not changing anything, but tell some people out there what you do to try to control it as much as possible.
Well, for anyone dealing with epilepsy who's an athlete, let me say first and foremost that this is not an easy road. This has to be something that you really, really want to do, because it's not going to be the same for you as it is for everyone else. There's going to be times it's going to feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it's something that you're just going to have to deal with over and over and over again. Like, you really need to be in this for the long haul if this is what you want. But I promise if this is something that you want to do, this is absolutely worth it. I've started looking at ketogenic diets. They've a lot of research shown that they've been helping control epilepsy symptoms. Another reason for it is that because it's a low carb lifestyle, my body will adapt to burning fat as fuel a little bit faster without me getting as cranky about it. Because anyone knows that you go for long enough time, you skip enough meals, your body starts to hit ketosis and burning all that fat. You become a cranky human being. I mean, no, it's the Snickers commercial. I mean, you're not you when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, but I mean, during the races, I take on I do a lot of diet. I use a lot of CarboPro, a lot of glucose. Try to get as many calories through liquid as possible. It digests a little bit faster, absorbs faster, really works without cramps. But at the same time, you have some solid food for protein and things like that. And a lot of that is just to kind of keep you in a good mood.
Yeah.
If you're not there mentally, the physical process becomes a lot more difficult.
That's a big part of it, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that helps you physically. Some of us,
Correct.
People who have had seizures can understand this, but really anybody in life, you're trying to push yourself physically, you have to be there, or have to push yourself physically. Like your heart has to be there first, right?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't matter how many hours of training you put in. If you are not mentally prepared when it's time to go to that start line, it's going to be a very rough day.
Right.
Because a lot of this it's an incredible amount of physical activity. You burn 16 to 18,000 calories a day in one of these races. And if most of it's willpower that's carrying you through, because you're going to get cramps, you're going to get tired, you're going to deal with all sorts of small setbacks throughout the day. Dropped water bottles, picking some sort of food that upsets your stomach. There's always going to be some sort of X factor that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I mean, if your mental game is just ready to go, I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of deal with those problems, get them behind you, and just keep going.
Right. Yeah, a lot of it too, and that's where we share a similar path. I love racquetball. I played that, had seizures in the court, but focused on not giving up. And that's a big part I want to inspire others out there about your story, Brian, too. You're not giving up. There's just no other option, right? And even if people in our lives who love us the most, sometimes they tend to hold us back, whether in this situation or as an entrepreneur or any type of change and growth that you do in life. Some people love you so much, they say, well, don't do it, right? Did you have maybe some of that too, where people didn't want you to ride again? A lot of it, maybe.
That was a great, definitely.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of people that, family, friends, that, when I got back on the bike afterwards and told people what I was planning on doing, there were some people that were like, this is really inspiring. This is great. You really just follow it as far as you can. And there were some people going, why? Why on earth would you possibly do this? You have a seizure disorder. So, of course, the best plan for you is to hop on a bike for, 24 hours, 3 days, a week with very little sleep and just expect to get through it.
Yeah.
There's some people who were genuinely concerned. There were other people who just really didn't accept the choices. But it's one of those things that if you really know that this is what you want to do, I mean, there is an incredible amount of sacrifice that's going to be required. And it doesn't matter if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be a musician. The people that are successful are the ones that are just willing day in, day out to grind. And everyone has something different that motivates them. Personally, for me, I want to know how far. I want to know how far I can physically go. And that was one thing my accident was in 2013. And I kind of thought about it while I was in there that I'm like, this may be like a bad New Year's resolution that, hey, I'm just going to get back and I want to do this. But it's one thing that, it was just such an extraordinary, it was not an enjoyable experience by far, but it was a watershed moment in my life, and a lot changed after that.
Yeah, a lot of it too. Like TD Jakes is a great speaker and pastor out there, and he talks about the analogy of a lobster coming out of its shell. That's what you did. You know, every so often the lobster will break out of the shell, and what's happening in today's society is a lot of people avoid pain, avoid change, avoid anything. You know, it shouldn't hurt. Well, it does. It does hurt because that's an old you that passed away. You know, you're still here. God bless everything, right? And you passed away hard because, you know, in that accident, everything changed, and I can relate to a lot. Waking up in the hospital, people seeing you, just not knowing what happened, and then our ego itself edging God out is what Wayne Dyer taught me, and us edging God out. Our ego says, "I want to go back and do the same stuff," but we can't be the same person if we want to grow to a new being, new man, new woman. You know? So that's awesome that you did that, and that's the inspiration too. And what else, in summing it up, would you have to say to any epileptics out there that are on the same journey? What advice would you give?
When you find something that you truly love and something that you truly want to do, it is more powerful than the disease that you're dealing with. Epilepsy is something that I didn't, some people get it in accidents. It's something I was born with. It's something I'm going to die with. However, I get to choose what I do with it in the meantime.
Yeah. You get a standing ovation. I'm sure there's people out there that are hearing this now, but that's awesome. Yeah, it's not what you see out there, but it's what you do inside first that makes a difference, right?
No, absolutely.
Things will happen to us and happen around us, but it's what happens in us that makes a difference inside of us, because there's the heart and there's the mind, and right between this ego talk, you can't do it, you can't do it. It's like, shut up, I'm doing it, right? Get up and get it done.
And sometimes I wonder if it is ego, or if it's, I mean, there is a reason for this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find something, you can't let the hand you've been dealt dictate your life.
Right.
I mean, your life is the one thing that you are absolutely in control of. I mean, everyone has some sort of X factor. Child support payments, a disease, you have relatives that you have to take care of. There are always going to be things that come up. But if you're really willing to stay in there and grind and just keep going with it and just grind day in, day out, not give up, not stop caring. Because not every day doing this is easy. It's not easy to get back on the bike after, working 8 hours and hopping back on the bike and training and then trying to maintain everything else that's going on in your life. It's not. But I mean, if you're willing to put in the work, you will see the results.
Yeah. I have a quote here at Recovered Coaching for all those out there. I've seen it on my website maybe, but your ultimate tomorrow begins today. And that's what you did here for pushing forward and going beyond that, because you could still be in the hospital or in bed or on the couch, 100 pounds heavier, doing whatever, just not trying anything. And we get set in that. So we're either growing or dying, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to making a decision. At some point, everyone has tolerances in their life. Everyone's tolerance levels are different. It's you're willing to put up with all these things that are going on in your life, but when you're no longer willing to just take things as they are.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're willing to step out of that comfort zone, just absolutely break out and do something extraordinary, there is absolutely no reason that you can't. I mean, it is completely on you to go do these things. I mean, the help will come, the support will come. You will find ways to make it work. But the thing is, you can't give up. You can't stop caring. Because when you stop caring, I mean, that's when you start making negative decisions instead of positive ones. And I mean, in the short term, that it may be great, but I mean, nothing good comes of it.
Right. And a lot of that, the caring part comes with sharing, and that's what you're doing here, sharing your story. And for any viewers out there that have a story like this, would love to contact you as well. This is coming from Recovered Coaching, for that word to be recovered. Now, of course, Brian, you're not fully recovered. There's epilepsy still in your life, but you've had that passion, that drive, that heart to come back and say, hey, I am not going to let this get me down and be in constant recovery or constant fear. False evidence appearing real is what that stands for, where you push forward and people are holding you back saying, don't do it. We don't want to see you like that. They care for you. They love you. But you push forward anyways with your heart, your soul. And that's a magnificent story. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for being a part of our program, Brian. And I'm sure I'll have you on board again. We're coming out too as well with the book Control Alt Delete. And maybe you, if you're interested to be a part of that, but it's going to be a co-authored book with people that have stories like you coming back from medical obstacles, dis-ease in life, those areas, whether addiction, that's a whole other story too. We talked about being in the restaurant and bar industry too, but that's another segment. And adding alcohol to epilepsy doesn't always help, but we've both gone through that too. And I know there's other people out there that have the medication addiction, the alcohol, escapism, eating, anything and everything out of life, because we're actually trying to burst out of that shell, but some of us are stuck. And that's what I'm here for at Recovered Coaching. So I appreciate your time, Brian. It was awesome hearing from you.
Well, it was great to finally see you. I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right. Take care. And everybody enjoy this. And remember, too, your ultimate tomorrow begins today. Take care.
Thank you.